Richard Suggate for the Diamond Harbour Community Association.
Thank you. Kia ora koutou katoa. Yes, well, I've been coming to these annual plan hearings now for quite a number of years on behalf of the Diamond Harbour Community Association, which I've been chair of for four and a bit now. So it's some of the similar themes to what we've talked about in the past, but repetition isn't a bad thing. The ideas take a while to sink in sometimes. So the first one that I just want to highlight from our written submission is the upgrade to the Diamond Harbour Wharf, which I actually gave you a little slideshow last time about the health and safety dangers of its existing state. Nothing much has changed since then. I understand and I may be wrong here, but I think that the capital work is proposed for 2021. In that case, the request is aimed at that you do the planning work this year, and fund the planning work this year, and which should involve consultation with the community about the design of what improvements should be made. Or otherwise, they won't be the best sort of improvements. The next point is to do with the village area, which we went through a rather lengthy and helpful planning process with the council staff to do a design for improvements to the area. Not a lot has kicked in since, but I understand there are other, perhaps higher priorities. But the one thing that is of greatest importance to us is the Godley House site, and that after Godley House was demolished or became inoperable, a cafe was set up on part of that land called the Dark Star Cafe. And for those happy years of the last 7 or so, we had 2 cafes in Diamond Harbour, and in summer you really need them because there isn't much, one cafe just can't cope with the influx of visitors, particularly when we run our annual summer concerts. Dark Star Cafe, the lessees wanted to move on. They couldn't find another tenant for it. The council staff were helpful in suggesting ways the lease could be transferred, but the fact that it was only going to be for extension for 2 years because of the wind up of the regulatory emergency provisions meant that nobody else took it on, and the Dark Star Cafe is closed and been dismantled. So we only have 1 cafe now. As part of that process, the council staff promised, if you can use those words, that they would prepare do a planning process for the future of the site. And that was the planning manager, the parks planning manager committed to that. I've tried to follow up just yesterday with an email to Kelly Hansen. She promises me that something has happened subsequently, or is to happen, but we would certainly welcome progress to be made because we haven't heard anything back about that planning process so far this year. Quickly note a few other things. The Diamond Harbour Community Hall, we're putting some more money in to upgrade the committee room there, and we're hopeful that the council will see to it to fix up the dilapidated toilets sometime in the not too distant future. The Stoddard Point Domain toilet is a ongoing sore spot. It's been closed and then reopened after a sort of repair and then closed again due to the leaking of the septic field behind it, which leaks out the back and down over the coastal track. It's a health and safety hazard. There are other leaky toilets on the peninsula because there was an engineering report prepared for the council a few years back now, and that the Diamond Harbour toilet was sort of put on a list to be done. Well, it's closed now, and there is no easily accessible public toilet apart from one that's hidden under the community hall, where it would be great if the council would finish off putting the signs up saying where it is, because they delivered the signs and they'll be waiting almost about 9 months for the signs to be put up. Anyway, that's a problem if you don't have decent public toilets and you have lots of visitors. Just to note, there is consultation on head-to-head walkway. Pleased about the fact there's wide consultation on the route there around Charteris Bay. Increased hours for Diamond Harbour Library. We've got a petition that's running in the community for increasing the hours there. That will be coming to the council soon, and somebody's speaking to the annual plan hearing about that, and that the Diamond Harbour Community Association does support the request for the $60,000 funding for pest-free Banks Peninsula. I won't talk a lot more about that now as part of our submission, because I'm going to be talking about that next with you wearing my Rod Donald Banks Peninsula Trust hat. So the last thing I think I'd like to say or highlight is the fact that of late you will all be aware that the movement around the world to have more urgent action taken on climate change, and that organisations and councils declare a state of climate emergency. The association supports such a declaration from the Christchurch City Council, and that we hope the council will see it as part of a nuclear-free movement equivalent, when member towns and cities did the same, and that there are increasing problems going to happen from storms, floods, fires. I won't talk about plagues and famine, but you get the idea. Rising sea levels, lots of people talk to you about that. That will incur a lot of capital expenditure for the future of the council. If the council declared a state of climate emergency, that would put further pressure on the government to do better things to actually help New Zealand's resilience and response to the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Andrew.
Thank you, Richard. And there are a number of points that you've raised there, some of which I know that there is some work going on, which I expect to be reported back very soon. Some of these issues are ones that have been raised quite recently by the community board. But my question relates to item 10 in your submission, increasing the hours of the Diamond Harbour Library. And the case for that is put in the submission. What are you looking for an increase to? Like in the view of the association, what are you asking us to change them to?
The association is supporting the Annabel Weir and her work on that, and she's just put a survey around the community asking for putting the current hours, the status quo, the new revised hours that is actually extending it to, I think, almost every day of the week, a solid number of hours in the middle, and plus continuing with an evening and, sorry, it's every day, the Monday to Friday, and also sometime on the Saturday as well. And the other two options are having the same as Rolleston Library or Littleton Library. And we're just waiting for feedback from the community on that, and she'll bring that to the council.
Thank you.
But a substantial increase, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Vicky.
Just so you're aware, it's not a question, the Extinction Rebellion and the Strike for Climate group are coming to the Innovation and Sustainability Committee on the 20th of May, which will make a recommendation to council about a climate emergency.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions? If not, stay there, and you can put your